Hi guys, it's me ChazRHD and welcome to the Sao Paulo Grand Prix weekend. We have now 4 races of course left in 2021, a season that has been absolutely fantastic, and we come here for the first time in 2 years to the Interlagos circuit for what usually was the Brazilian Grand Prix, but of course now it is called the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. And thankfully I have to say the Grand Prix is still on the calendar, because it didn't look as though a year or so ago that we were going to have races really ever again at the Interlagos track. But thankfully we have returned to a classic circuit, and also a circuit that has provided many thrilling and classic moments down the years, and of course the weather always playing a factor, and I'm sure it will probably play some factor in the Grand Prix this weekend. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Had a practice one which gets underway in just under 15 minutes time, and I think we are in for a good weekend. And I think at the front, I think it's going to be a bit more competitive than it was in Mexico. Honestly, going into Mexico, I thought it would be a bit more competitive than it was, but it wasn't really, was it? I mean, qualifying was a surprise result, really, given what we saw from practice with Mercedes locking out the front row. And in the race, let's be honest, Red Bull absolutely hammered Mercedes, and were lucky that they got Hamilton into finishing in second place. They really, really were. And I think this weekend be close. I mean, it's going to be closer naturally anyway, because it is a shorter lap. There's not that many proper corners at this track, and it's definitely a track where anyone with a strong power unit will really go well at this circuit, even though we are altitude, of course, at Interlagos. And I think Ferrari also and McLaren, I think, will definitely be a lot closer to the front of the field than they were in Mexico. But like I said, hopefully you guys are doing well. Hopefully, no matter what time it is in your part of the world, no matter what day it is, possibly, if it's already Saturday in your part of the world, hopefully you're having the best day you could possibly be having, considering whatever circumstances you're going through. And hopefully you will join me today for this practice one watch along, and hopefully as well later for the qualifying watch along, the session of course that sets the starting grid for the sprint tomorrow, which I will not thankfully be covering. But yeah, I think today we are in for very interesting running and definitely a close field. Now, just need to quickly, before we get into the slideshow pictures that I normally show, of course this is the first session of the weekend, so I'm not going to get into any results from previous sessions. I just need to clarify, the slideshow pictures you are about to see are from last weekend's Mexican Grand Prix, of course, or Mexico City Grand Prix, sorry. Of course, we haven't had any running here so far, so can't really, of course, get any pictures on screen that really show anything that exciting, other than, you know, the drivers walking into the paddock, and I don't think you guys want to see that on your screen during this stream. So yeah, I've got some pictures from last week's Grand Prix. What in qualifying later, once of course we've had some running in this session, I will get a load of pictures up for that stream later of the cars at this Grand Prix track from this session later on. So sorry about that, but of course nothing I can do. It should hopefully keep you guys enamored with what's on screen during the session. And just switch onto it now. So there you go. Of course, they're the McLaren of Lando Norris. But before I get on to anything else, let's just get into some of the news going into this Grand Prix. The biggest news is that Lewis Hamilton, I mean, coming away from Mexico, let's be honest, the championship, and you can even tell by the way Lewis Hamilton is speaking, the championship is very nearly gone now for Lewis Hamilton, given how quick Max Verstappen is right now, how quick the Red Bull car is, and how well they are performing. It's going to be very tough for Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton to win the championship. Not impossible at all. And we've seen in the past that even drivers and cars who look like they're the favourites going into the final couple races have still been able to fall by the wayside at the, last crucial moments of a season. But at the moment, it's looking unlikely. And like I said, coming out of the Mexico City Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton was not very optimistic. He firstly blamed his teammate wrongly. I think blamed his teammate for letting Max Verstappen have a run around the outside. Then he did revise his comments when it came to Valtteri Bottas. But the people, I have to say, blaming Bottas for what he did at the start, I think are just idiots, really. What could Valtteri Bottas have done differently? I think that's what you need to look at. Lewis Hamilton pulled alongside him on the inside of the corner, or inside of the straight, running down to turn one. Bottas was in the middle, couldn't go left because he knew there was a car to his left. So Bottas, nothing he could do, and really there was nothing he could do about Daniel Ricciardo piling into the back of him at turn one as well. So he, had some things to say, Lewis Hamilton, about that, but I think was wrong in saying that. And has even now come out and said after that every Grand Prix from now on, and I was going to say this anyway, whether he said it or not, every Grand Prix from now on is a must-win. Lewis Hamilton has to win, unless Max Verstappen has a retirement, he has to win all 4 of the final races. If he doesn't, and Max Verstappen finishes them, then Lewis Hamilton will not win the championship. He absolutely will not. And I've got to be honest, Hamilton, great driver. Mercedes, great team. But at this point in the season, despite being being as great as they are, they're going to need luck at this point if they're going to win the championship. Because Max Verstappen, by the way, it's not like Max Verstappen has to win all 4 of the final races. He has a 19-point lead with 4 races to go. So if Verstappen was to win this weekend and Hamilton was to finish second, we'll get into Hamilton, by the way, and where he may start this weekend, because that's another piece of news that's been coming out from this Grand Prix weekend already. If Verstappen wins the Grand Prix this weekend and Hamilton finishes in second, and let's say Max has the fastest lap, then the gap will go up to 27 points. Now remember, let's say in regards to the final race, Max has to have at least a 27-point lead or a 26.5-point lead if you want to get into that. Of course, half points were awarded out at Spa, and they are both on half. And you never know, could happen again at some point during the season, or in the final remaining races here. If he is leading by at least 26.5 or 27 points going into Abu Dhabi, then he will be the world champion. So Verstappen, if he does win this Grand Prix, he'll most likely, if he does get the fastest lap, it, let's say, goes out to 27 points. Then Max Verstappen, I'm just trying to think of the points difference here. It's an 8-point difference between Hamilton and Verstappen if Hamilton was to win the final 3 after that, and Hamilton was to get the fastest lap. So that means Hamilton would take home 24 points. But as you know, as I just explained, if Max wins this weekend and Hamilton finishes second, and Max, even if he doesn't get the fastest lap, that won't be enough for Lewis Hamilton. So Max, all he has to do is win this race and finish at least second in the final 3 races, and he'll be world champion. Max Verstappen has a lot going in his favour right now. He really, really does. And to be honest, I think there's definitely a very good chance that Max Verstappen could be world champion before that final race. Because, like I said, it's not like he's 4 or 5 points ahead. He's 19 points ahead. And if Hamilton has another issue in a race or doesn't finish, say, second this weekend or next weekend in Qatar, then Verstappen could win the championship in Qatar, could win it at the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. But it's definitely Max Verstappen who is the clear favourite for this World Championship. But like I said, even if Lewis Hamilton was to get the fastest lap and win the final 3 races, as long as Max Verstappen wins this Grand Prix and finishes second in the final 3 races, the Max Verstappen will be world champion regardless of what Lewis Hamilton does. So Verstappen in a very, very good position. And as well, with Lewis Hamilton, he, by the looks of it, because, and this has been talked about, quite a lot, in the final, say, couple months of this season, that Mercedes have because of the way they've organised their power unit at the moment, they have to take, and not just Mercedes, but Mercedes-powered cars have to take, new ICEs and new components quite a lot now. Of course, we saw in Turkey, and also in Russia with Valtteri Bottas, but in Turkey, Lewis Hamilton took a new IC, and of course, that Grand Prix did not end well for him because he finished in P5 and lost 8 points to his main rival, Max Verstappen. It looks as though, I don't think it's confirmed. Let me just have a quick look. Let me just have a quick look at the moment. I don't think it's been confirmed. Yeah, and Hamilton just saying, I'm just reading racefans.net, saying he doesn't know yet if he will face a penalty, amid rumours that Mercedes are going to go for a new ICE yet again. It looks as though Lewis Hamilton will have a 5-place grid penalty for the race on Sunday for a new ICE. It's been talked about a lot that Hamilton will have to take a new ICE, in one of the final 4 races because Mercedes need to put a new one in because of that, power unit situation we've talked about. And really, this is the only track they can do it and, say, get away with that penalty the most, because this is the easiest circuit out of the final 4 to overtake at and to make up ground. So Hamilton will be starting the race at least, not at least, at the absolute highest in P6. I don't think the grid penalty applies to the sprint race because I think that still counts as a qualifying session. So I think it will apply to the Grand Prix on Sunday, thankfully. So Hamilton's already in a bad position and has to hope that his teammate can somehow do something against Max Verstappen, but that is unlikely given how good Verstappen and Red Bull have been looking as of late. By the way, the F1 intro now playing on screen, and the session will be underway in, a couple minutes' time. As it's an overcast day, and track temperature 37 degrees Celsius right now, and it probably won't be that warm later on in qualifying, when the track, I think, will be a bit cooler as we enter the later part of the day in Sao Paulo. So yeah, session underway very, very soon, and like I said, back to Verstappen and Hamilton there. Hamilton, his back's against the wall, and I think Hamilton and Mercedes know. And I just read another headline there on racefans.net that, Hamilton's saying that Mercedes and him as well have done the best they could against the strongest car. And I think we have to say, Red Bull have had the best car this season, without a doubt. At any point this season, where Mercedes have made improvements, Red Bull have always had that edge in a key area over Mercedes, and that's what has allowed Red Bull to be in the position they are in. And they're also in a great position to possibly as well win the Constructors' Championship. Of course, the gap between the two teams, only 1 point coming into this Grand Prix. And given current form, and given that Lewis Hamilton most likely will be taking a grid penalty for this Grand Prix, it looks likely that Red Bull will probably be taking the lead of the Constructors' Championship coming out of this Grand Prix. So, looking great for Red Bull, and Mercedes, like I said, and Hamilton, backs against the wall, and they need to be flawless for the final 4 races, and also they will need luck if they're going to get the job done. And for Hamilton, of course, to win an 8th World Championship. As you can see on screen, we now have less than 1 second, 1 minute, sorry, not 1 second, less than 1 minute to go until the session is underway. I'll just get the graphics ready for first practice. And, of course, the running order on the left-hand side, not the live running order, because, of course, this is the first session of the weekend. And if you didn't know, if you are new to Formula 1, all of the practice sessions are 1 hour long. This session, as Valtteri Bottas is already coming out of his pit box, which is good to see. And I was just going to say, actually, that because as the session is now underway, because, of course, such an important session coming up tonight to set the grid for the sprint, where I don't think there'll be that much overtaking, to be honest. This session is very, very important. Very, very important indeed. Because if there's any reliability trouble or any accidents, mistakes from any of the drivers, then those teams or drivers are in big trouble going into really the rest of the weekend. Because if you don't have a good session here, it really can affect you for the whole weekend. Because the important sessions are right away this weekend rather than the normal, and I think better format that we have of, 2 practice sessions on a Friday and then qualifying day on a Saturday and a race day on a Sunday. I've got to say, the clouds are very dark at Interlagos, and we know that rain at this circuit is always possible and always has a big effect on Grand Prix here. And if there is to be another big swing in the title race, this is a track and a Grand Prix you'd expect it to be at, given what we've had in the past. As few cars on track at the moment, and really, we've got a lot of cars on track at the moment. I'll get into what cars they are once they show on the screen. Who is on track as I think we've got both Red Bulls now, as the Ted Kravitz just standing next to an Alpine coming out of the exit of the pits, and I think we've got both Mercedes as well on the circuit. And on the TV broadcast, we're just looking at Valtteri Bottas, who is exiting the final real corner and now makes the climb up onto the long straight where many overtaking will be done in the Grand Prix, and it is certainly for the power units the area where they need to do their magic. As now we're seeing Max Verstappen, who, if he's on an outlap, he's pushing pretty hard, and yeah, I think he was on an outlap, so just pushing quite hard there. Get the tyres fired up on this outlap. And Perez also on track. Perez has just started his first run in the session. And to be honest, I would wish that Sky would get rid of the double screen, because I don't really see anything going on in the pits that needs to be talked about. As Max Verstappen now rolls his way into turn 1, and he's on the medium compound tyre. Forgot to mention, and I'll quickly mention, that the tyre compounds this weekend are C4, C3, and C2. So I still think it'll be a one-stop race, to be honest, on Sunday, especially considering we have the sprint on Saturday, because I think you'll have pretty much everyone starting the race on the medium. I mean, yeah, the soft, it can probably go quite a bit into the Grand Prix, but it is still the worst tyre for endurance. And of course, you don't want to be pitting too early in a Grand Prix. As Valtteri Bottas, by the way, is P1 at the moment. Don't know what the time is that he has set, as Fernando Alonso is up into second position. And then Carlos Sainz is up to third, as Max Verstappen has done 2 purple sectors, as Sergio Perez goes quickest by 9/10 of a second compared to Valtteri Bottas, and Max Verstappen goes 3/10 quicker than that. So Red Bull immediately out of the blocks, hammering the opposition. So Verstappen in P1, and then you've got Perez in second, Bottas third, and then Alonso and Sainz complete the top 5 at the moment. I think Gasly is in 6th place, and I'll get onto the rest in a moment, as they're just showing an interesting graphic on screen from, I think, AWS about car development and, the season progress, and that Red Bull are the quickest, and Mercedes have gained 3/4 of a tenth. Red Bull have Ferrari, have gained barely anything on Red Bull. AlphaTauri have made the biggest jump forward, and you can see that in the last couple of races. AlphaTauri have looked really, really good. Gasly finishing 4th in Mexico. What a drive by him. But anyway, Esteban Ocon is up now to 3rd place in the Alpine, as Lewis Hamilton goes ahead of teammate Valtteri Bottas. Now, with Mercedes this weekend also, of course, talked about them a lot in the build-up here. This track, in terms of the layout, it should suit them. It should suit them just as much as Red Bull. But because of the altitude here, that does play into Red Bull's hands a bit more, as we saw in Mexico and as we've seen at this Grand Prix a couple years ago and even the year before in 2018, when Max Verstappen was clearly the quickest and Red Bull were clearly the quickest, and they should have won had it not been for Esteban Ocon. So, I mean, in the 1st and 3rd sector, yeah, Mercedes are going to be quick, but the middle sector, I think, is where Red Bull are really going to be miles quicker than anyone else. As Charles Leclerc comes to the line and goes up to 6th place. Carlos Sainz now goes up to 6th place in the Ferrari. Valtteri Bottas jumps up to 2nd on a 1 minute 11.5. So Verstappen, Bottas, Perez, your top 3, with Ocon in 4th. And by the way, Ocon 4th on the hard compound tyre. That is very impressive, I have to say, right out of the blocks. Tsunoda is in 9th place right now. And then Gasly has actually just jumped up into 9th place. So Gasly and Tsunoda round out the top 10 as Max Verstappen comes to the line and goes even quicker on the medium compound. Not just quicker, but 6.5 tenths quicker. What a lap. Not even 6.5 tenths, now clear of Bottas. He's pretty much 7 tenths of a second quicker than Max Verstappen, already setting the track alight as Lewis Hamilton on an improved lap, it seems, so far, as Ocon is still in 4th and Alonso is now 5th. Not anymore, because Lewis Hamilton goes up to P4, but he is a second already off the pace of Max Verstappen. I know people will say, well, it's only practice 1, but remember, qualifying later on, this is not a session where you want to be sandbagging and holding back, because you need to really get a good idea when it's all, you know, low fuel and turned up to a certain extent. You need to get a good idea of where you are, and you can already tell that Red Bull are in a very good place, which is not really a surprise. As Alonso is on an improved lap. Got to say, very good from Alonso on the hard compound tyre. And also from Ocon, almost as quick as the Mercedes of Hamilton. And Alonso comes to the line and goes ahead of his teammate Esteban Ocon and up to P5. For your top 10, at the moment, about 10 minutes into practice 1, Verstappen, Bottas, Perez, Hamilton, Alonso, Ocon, and then Tsunoda has just gone up to P7. Sainz is 8th, Leclerc 9th, Gasly in 10th, and then Latifi is in P12 for Williams. Williams, I think, will be P11, I think. Did I say P12? P11, I meant, with Latifi. I do think that Williams will be a lot closer to, you know, the sharp end of the midfield this time. In Mexico, even though Russell was running in the points at one time, Williams were very, very slow in Mexico compared to how they've been in other Grand Prix. And I think with Russell, certainly, Williams are going to be strong for sure. As Max Verstappen has done yet another purple first sector. He only knows purple right now in this session. And he continues on his way. And yep, half a second up after the first 2 sectors. And he will now go, well, at least half a second quicker. And will be over a second quicker than anybody else in this session so far once he comes to the line. And here he comes. And Max Verstappen goes 6.5 tenths quicker. And is 1.3 seconds ahead of the next car. That is not Red Bull running a lot lower fuel or more power. That is Max Verstappen in the most confident mood he's ever been, in the best car on the grid, knowing that the championship is very, very close now. As Hamilton saying front end is really poor, bouncing vertically a lot. That's not good. In the middle sector, you do need the front end to be right on the apexes, because if you don't, you can easily slide off the track and it can cost you, half second, a second per lap. So that is not a good thing for Hamilton. Hopefully that can be improved for him. So yeah, Hamilton not looking great at the moment, as he's now down in P5, and that is because I think Pierre Gasly has just shot up to 4th place in the AlphaTauri. Sorry, he probably wishes he was in a Mercedes, and to be honest, he probably does deserve to be in a Mercedes. By the way, if you're just joining the stream and wondering why I've got Mexican Grand Prix pictures on the stream, or on the screen, sorry, it's because, of course, we haven't had any running so far this weekend, so there's nothing I can show from earlier in the weekend, so that's why. For qualifying later, I will have pictures from this session for sure. And hello to Nib in the chat. Good to see you, mate. And hello to Rooksfoot as well, and everyone else. Great to see you as always. As Sergio Perez is on another lap. And by the way, it is confirmed that Lewis Hamilton will take a grid penalty for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. A 5-place grid drop for a new ICE. So, advantage already, Max Verstappen. As Esteban Ocon shoots up to 3rd place. Ocon up to 3rd. With Perez 4th, Gasly 5th. Perez, though, as we're seeing on the TV broadcast right now, on another lap, just went past the Ferrari there. As, let me just complete the rest of the order if I can. Russell has gone up to P11 in the Williams. And actually, Latifi goes back ahead of him. And the rest of the order as it is. The Aston Martins are slowly but surely coming out on track. Sebastian Vettel on an outlap right now. Perez gets a great slipstream from the Williams ahead. And Perez will go up to 2nd, but he is almost 1 second slower than Max Verstappen. As here is now Lewis Hamilton. And I don't know if this car ahead has held him up or just backed off in the final sector, but he is getting now a very nice slipstream to the line, but he will go nowhere near the lap time Max Verstappen. Yeah, he does do a purple final sector, but he is still 8.5 tenths slower than Verstappen. Goes 2nd, but like I said, 8.5 tenths down, and was helped by a massive slipstream from Kimi Raikkonen in that final sector. Kimi Raikkonen, who of course scored points in Mexico, quite possibly could be his final points finish of his career. Hopefully not. Hopefully he can be up there this weekend. Of course, this Grand Prix was the last time we came here. A good Grand Prix for Kimi. He qualified in 8th place and finished in 4th. I was very close to getting on the podium. Was very close behind Carlos Sainz, who of course got the podium after Hamilton got a penalty for taking out Alex Albon in the closing stages of that just incredible finish in Brazil. And of course, Kimi won this Grand Prix back in 2007 and didn't just win the race, he also won his only world title. So this is a good track for Kimi. And in the past couple races that he had for Ferrari here, the most, 2 recent that he had for Ferrari, he ended up on the podium and not too far away from whoever won the race that day. I think Hamilton was 2018. He wasn't too far away. And then 2017 even, he wasn't too far away from the race winner in terms of time on track. So it is a good track for Kimi, and hopefully he can be somewhat in the fight up there this weekend. And Esteban Ocon continues to lap very quickly, I think, on the hard compound of tyre, as he now goes up to P4. And Sebastian Vettel now shoots right up the order to go into 6th place. Very good first run there for Aston Martin. Aston Martin should be quicker this weekend over a single lap than they were in Mexico. Mexico, they had a very good result with Sebastian at P7, but that was benefited by grid penalties for others. But yeah, like I said, qualifying pace should be stronger this weekend as Perez back up to 2nd. But he is still 0.6 of a second off Max Verstappen, who is easily up front right now. And you could argue that if Verstappen didn't come out again, he would still end up P1 in this session. As Perez that time was on the medium compound of tyre. As Lewis Hamilton, though, comes back out on track on an outlap. And he just let through was it an AlphaTauri, I think, who just started his lap. And talking of AlphaTauri, currently P7 and P9, and I think AlphaTauri, as Hamilton saying on team radio, please come up with another solution on the front suspension, I think he said. So clearly, the front end, as he's being a bit held up on this outlap, but it is an outlap. A bit held up on this outlap, I have to say. The Red Bull ahead really blocking him here. Who is it? Sergio Perez. Hamilton will have to back off here if he wants to go for an actual proper run. And he's not going to bother. Maybe he's going to come back into the pits or just nab a slipstream from Sergio Perez. And Bottas saying drops of rain as Perez, for some reason, is racing Hamilton down the pit straight into turn 1. And now lets him go. I don't really know what Perez is doing. Maybe trying to play mind games. I don't really know. That was pretty pointless from the Mexican. But Hamilton did get a nice slipstream from that. But he's not using DRS down the next straight. So I'm assuming that he has backed off on this lap. And yes, he has. Because I think he's not backed off. But he's going a lot slower than he should be going at this point of the lap. And I was actually going to say, as Lance Stroll, by the way, is up to 9th place, and now we have all 20 drivers with something on the board. AlphaTauri, I mean, of course, Gasly, great result last weekend. Should be even stronger, I think, this weekend. Watch out for AlphaTauri, and they should have both cars up in the top 10 without any grid penalties. So, they could be, AlphaTauri, maybe the strongest team in terms of result from this Grand Prix this weekend, as Carlos Sainz is up to P10. And Hamilton, did another lap that time, but it did not improve his lap time so far. But he is going for another run here. Maybe this will be now a representative lap for Hamilton. Nope, he's not opened DRS yet again, so he's not really pushing that hard compared to what he would want to be doing if he wanted to go quickest or near the quickest man on this session. But top 10 at the moment is Verstappen, Perez, Hamilton, Ocon, Bottas, Vettel, Gasly, Alonso, Stroll, and Carlos Sainz. Here's a replay of Charles Leclerc on the hard compound tyre into turn 1, locking the inside front, going massively wide and blowing the lap. So that's why Ferrari at the moment are not too quick, is because they are on the hardest compound. And of course, you want to save the soft compound for qualifying later on and possibly the sprint on Saturday. That's why we're seeing medium and hard compound tyres everywhere as Gasly locks his inside front, but he actually he didn't quite make the apex, but he was pretty close. Was the gas man. And he continues on. And like I said, AlphaTauri looking pretty good at the moment, and they've been pretty good all season. I was a bit worried at the start of the season when they didn't have that great results compared to what they were doing in qualifying at the start of the season. I was a bit worried they wouldn't get their rewards, which I think their reward should be a top 5 finish in the Constructors' Championship. But it was not looking that great at mid-season point, was it? Because you had Alpine and Aston Martin, I think, ahead of them and looking quite good. But since the summer break, you have to say AlphaTauri have made a good step forward and are definitely, at this rate, unless Alpine have a big race AlphaTauri should finish 5th in the Constructors. And if they do, I'll be very happy for them because they deserve it. They should have been ahead of Ferrari in the Constructors really last season for 6th. I think that would have been a big boost for them if they had got that, but they just didn't have the consistency in the end to beat Ferrari, who were really poor, of course, last year. By the way, Sergio Perez, he's still in 2nd place, but he's cut the time difference between him and Verstappen down to just 0.02 of a second. So very close now between the Red Bulls, but the 2 Red Bulls miles clear of anybody else. Yeah, AlphaTauri, I think they deserve P5 of the Constructors, like I was just saying, because they should have been ahead of Ferrari last season for 6th. But like I said, lack of consistency meant they couldn't get that. And we have to remember as well, they won a Grand Prix. I know it was in lucky circumstances, but, you know, they still won a Grand Prix. And Pierre Gasly last season was fantastic, as he has been, of course, this season as well. And has also had a podium this year at Baku. So yeah, Gasly's been absolutely fantastic. And in 2019, where they had, 2 different driver lineups, I think, that season, they, I think, were the better performing team compared to Renault that season. Renault, I think, compared to what we were expecting that season, were pretty poor and didn't really deliver. And I think AlphaTauri, when they were Toro Rosso, of course, in 2019, I think they deserve 5th that year. So I'd be very, very happy for them if they were to get 5th in the Constructors, because they do deserve it, and they are kind of similar to Aston Martin, who, of course, used to be Force India and used to be Racing Point. They're one of those teams that always do very well, considering the lack of resources they have in comparison to Alpine, McLaren, Ferrari, and also Red Bull, Mercedes in certain circumstances when we have a race where there's, you know, a bit of a mixed up grid. They always do those 2 teams pretty well, and I think AlphaTauri should finally get their reward for that. And I don't think they've ever finished top 5 in the Constructors' Championship before, so that would be a very good result for them. And even though Gasly is, you know, he, of course, was dropped from Red Bull after half a season, he's gone back to AlphaTauri, and he's been much, much better, and he's one of the best drivers on the grid. You have to say that. Even I have to say that, and I did criticise him quite a bit in 2019, even though on reflection, I think some of the criticism probably from me was unfair, because on reflection, I think he was not ready for that seat. I think he even said at the time he wasn't ready and he needed probably another year at Toro Rosso, but I guess they didn't have anyone else who they could have gone with. Saying that, if they'd gone, say, and signed Sergio Perez, for example, to replace Daniel Ricciardo, which at the time we know they weren't keen on doing because they were still very keen on the driver academy, then I think it would have actually worked out better, because Perez could have done a couple years at Red Bull, had probably some good results for Red Bull, then moved on to another team, and then Gasly then could have replaced Perez for, say, 2021. But they did not do that, when that's probably what they should have done, given that there was no one really ready in the Red Bull Academy and pipeline to replace Daniel Ricciardo for 2019. I mean, you could say Danny Kvyat, and I thought at the time probably he was the only one who would be ready to step up to that role and know, you know, the pressures and all of that. But Red Bull were never going to put him back in the car. They were only going to put people in the car who they wanted to, you know, possibly have in the future, instead of going back to the well for drivers who they consider to have failed. And yeah, Gasly in that half season didn't do that well. Like I said, some of my criticism I think was probably a bit unfair, and I think I can definitely say that it was a bit unfair. And you may be surprised in me saying that it's a bit unfair, but I think looking back, I think some of the criticism was unfair. Of course, I have the benefit of hindsight now, looking back at it. But I did say at the time that he was not ready for that seat, and it did prove, I think, to be the case. And I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why he did not succeed at Red Bull. But of course, has gone back to AlphaTauri, done very, very well. He's had, 3 podiums, I think, at that team. Since he came back, 1 podium a year at the moment for that team. And he's done very, very well. And the point I'm trying to get onto is that, I mean, yeah, maybe he is disappointed that, he won't be at Red Bull for next season or beyond. But AlphaTauri's not that bad of a team to be at right now. Like I said, they've been probably one of the top 5 teams this season. And next season, given they've had extra wind tunnel time compared to the top teams this season and they will, of course, next season as well, to help develop their car. And, of course, when they have that extra wind tunnel time, they can do whatever they want with it. So you're going to guess that they probably have dedicated some of that extra time to next season and the new regulations. Gasly, if AlphaTauri get it right, Gasly could be, right up there next season. I mean, he's right up there at times this season in a car that's clearly nowhere near the top 3-4 teams at times. So I don't think Gasly being at AlphaTauri is that bad, to be honest. I mean, in an ideal situation, of course, you want to be at Red Bull because they have such massive resources and all of that. But I think AlphaTauri next season, I don't think they'll be that bad of a team. I think they could actually be a bit of a dark horse, really, because I don't think anyone is talking about them going into next season. I know people are talking about, Aston Martin. Of course, they'll have extra wind tunnel time next season, and they have to a certain extent this season compared to Red Bull, Mercedes. So, they, in theory, should be stronger next season. And I guess some people have said it about Alpine as well. But AlphaTauri, let's remember, they've been very good in the last couple seasons and always performed at the absolute best they could, if not overperformed at times. As just looking at the running order at the moment, and I just need to update it because we do have some new people in some new positions. So it's still, with half an hour gone in this 1 hour session, it is still Verstappen, Perez, Hamilton, Ocon, and then Bottas, Vettel, and then Lance Stroll is now in P7. Gasly is 8th, and then you got Alonso 9th, and Daniel Ricciardo is now up in 10th position for McLaren. Good for him. As then you got Sainz, Tsunoda, Leclerc, Russell, Latifi, and then Raikkonen is in 16th, and then Schumacher 17th, Norris 18th, Giovinazzi 19th, and Mazepin in 20th place. Any word on Hamilton's penalty? It is confirmed Lewis Hamilton has a 5-place grid penalty for the race on Sunday for a new ICE. So yeah, that is absolutely now confirmed. Of course, now the running for the weekend is underway. They have to confirm any new penalties or new components took on to the FIA, and that's how it gets announced. As Lewis Hamilton is now in the middle sector of another lap, but I think this is more of a race sim or maybe a simulation run for the sprint on Saturday, as it's looking pretty misty and foggy out on track, and some spots of rain as well. So grip is not at an optimum at the moment on the circuit as we are halfway through this first session of the weekend. Just want to say, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, because I will be live later on tonight at 6:30 p.m. UK time, so in 2.5 hours from now, for the the two Mercedes there in the pits almost collided, as one Mercedes came into the pit box, another one came out and almost collided with the other one. That would have been very, very embarrassing. Yeah, we'll be live later on in 2.5 hours for the qualifying watch-along for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. And then like in other weekends where we've had the sprint, I will not be doing any content tomorrow on Saturday, but on Sunday I'll be back for the usual content. There'll be a race preview at 2 p.m. UK time on Sunday, and the race watch along, possibly with Nib. I don't know at this point, to be honest. I mean, only he can really say. Will be at 4:30 p.m. UK time on Sunday. And then if there is anything to actually react to, and I do kind of apologise for the Mexico City Grand Prix weekend, because I know I said there would be a race reaction, but after the race, there wasn't really anything to react to. So that's why I didn't bother doing it. But if there is something to react to for this Grand Prix, then I will do a race reaction after the race finishes, and it will come out and be live as soon as the race finishes in Sao Paulo. And in regards as well to the third part of this triple header that we've had, which is the Qatar Grand Prix in a week's time, which I have to say, a lot of air miles this weekend, or not this weekend, but in the next coming week for these drivers and teams to get themselves to Qatar. I will get on to what the plan for content for that weekend is on Sunday, because it will be different. Quite a bit different from this Grand Prix and also the last Grand Prix in Mexico, as Carlos Sainz is on the medium compound tyre now, and he is on an improved lap. As Sainz comes to the line and goes P3, 4/10 of a second off the pace. So Carlos Sainz is up to third, and I think we've heard a lot of talk about Ferrari, as Charles Leclerc only half a tenth down on Verstappen after the first two sectors. We've heard a lot of talk over the last couple of races that Ferrari have had a new power unit and that it is very, very good now and can compete with the top ones in Formula One, as Leclerc goes second and only 0.005 of a second slower than Max Verstappen. I think this is, since they've took on that new power unit, this is really the first and possibly only track remaining this season where we're going to see how good that new Ferrari power unit is. Yes, we are at a very high above sea level here, and that is similar to Mexico, but this track, it does really showcase who is strong in that department. So if Ferrari can show that, that talk about their power unit being so much better and being very competitive, if they can show that that is indeed true, then they could upset the order at the front this weekend. I don't think at the very front in regards to the Red Bulls, because I still think Red Bull have the best car. But in regards to Mercedes, we'll keep an eye on it, because I think it could be interesting if Ferrari can fully showcase that this weekend and show absolutely that their power unit is now on a level with Mercedes and Honda. Sebastian Vettel, who is currently sat in 8th place, is now on an improved lap on the medium compound tyre, coming through turn 10. Very slow right-hander. Now into the quick left-hand turn 11, which in qualifying later will be easily flat out. He's only 3/4 of a second as he loses the rear end a bit on the exit of that final real corner, turn 13. He was at, 3/4 of a second down on Verstappen after the first two sectors, and is a second down overall at the end of the lap, and he goes back up to P6. A good run so far. Good running, really, so far from Aston Martin. They're in 6th and 9th. And remember, they didn't go out for the first 10 minutes of the session, as Mercedes are doing work to the front end of Hamilton's car to make sure it is performing a lot better than it actually has been. Max Verstappen now on the soft compound, the C4 compound. He's done a purple first sector, and I am honestly expecting him to absolutely blitz this lap. On that tyre especially, as he now comes into turn 8 and turn 9, as Perez has now set the quickest first sector. as Verstappen into turn 10. And the Red Bull, the reason the Red Bull car is the best right now, it's not just because they've got still very good levels of power and, straight line speed like they had earlier in the season, but also as Verstappen does the purple middle sector, the car in the parts of the circuit like the middle sector where you need to be stable, that car is as stable as can be, as Max Verstappen goes even quicker by 7 and almost 8 tenths of a second. So Max Verstappen now almost 8 tenths of a second clear of the rest of the field, and Perez goes up to second, only 3/4 of a tenth behind Verstappen. So Perez looking very quick this weekend so far, and Red Bull now miles quicker than the rest of the field, but they are so far the only team, I think, to do a run on the soft compound tyre. So everyone else can improve still at this point, but yeah, they're looking good. As Alonso shoots up to P4 in the Alpine, and also Lance Stroll has shot up quite highly as well. Stroll now up into P6, as here's a replay of Charles Leclerc on the exit of turn 4, running a bit wide, and I think this weekend that will incur a lap time deletion if that does happen. I'm pretty sure it will. As here's a replay of Vettel on the exit of turn 13. I think we already saw this, but he just lost the rear end a bit, applying the throttle a bit too early. But he got away with it, and he's sitting nicely in the top 10 on the medium compound tyres. So looking good, Aston Martin. And I was actually, before Red Bull did that run, as Lando Norris is now on the medium compound tyre. We'll see what Norris does. He's currently sat down in 18th place. Hasn't done any representative running at the moment, and he is coming back into the pits. So still no more representative running we will be seeing from him. But let me just update that Lewis Hamilton is up to 7th, and then you've got Vettel 8th and Ocon in 9th. There's Giovinazzi has shot up to 10th place. Is a replay of Norris into turn 1. Maybe this is why he's come back into the pits, and indeed it is. He's locked his inside front and gone massively wide. That would have cost him probably half a second, because it doesn't just affect your run through turn 1, it also affects the positioning of the car going through turn 2, because you can't then maximise your speed through turn 2 and 3. So it does cost you a lot more time than it seems. As Gasly up to 8th place. I was just going to say, Sebastian Vettel is pretty good around here. He, of course, won this race 4 years ago for Ferrari. A very good Grand Prix win that was, when they weren't that quick that weekend, I remember, Ferrari, compared to Mercedes in the fight for victory. So yeah, it was a good win, that. And also, I think he was on the front row here last time we were racing here in 2019. Was on the front row here in 2018. In 2015, he was on the podium here. And of course, he has won the World Championship here in 2012. And I think won here twice for Red Bull. So this is a circuit where Sebastian should be firing on all cylinders, as Yuki Tsunoda up to 6th. Valtteri Bottas, who's all the way down in 14th now, is on the soft compound tyre. As, yeah, Gasly is in 8th place, Hamilton 9th, and now Kimi Raikkonen is up to 10th place. As a lot of traffic ahead for Bottas. He gets through it just about okay. And his middle sector, not really that great compared to Red Bull. They are, or he is rather, 0.4 of a second down on the Red Bulls through this lap so far. As he comes to the line, and Valtteri Bottas 4.5 tenths down and in 3rd position. Still, especially around this track and how short the lap is, that is a lot of time they are losing to Red Bull, as now Sky F1 go for an ad break. But that top 4 is as it is. Verstappen and Perez 1 and 2 with at least a 4.5 gap to the rest of the field. We'll see when Hamilton finally comes back out on track, once they've maybe fixed the front end of his car. We'll see whether he can go any quicker in his Mercedes. And Adam just saying that Alpine looking good. Yeah, they were up in 4th and 5th 20-30 minutes ago. Of course, Alonso now in the top 5. Ocon has not gone out for quite a while and really done a quick run, so I think he can go a lot quicker. And yeah, Alpine looking pretty good, which is surprising, but I still think AlphaTauri will be the quicker team this weekend, and I think you'll see that later on in qualifying and later on the weekend as well. Just looking to see if there's any news on Twitter. Nothing at the moment, other than, of course, that what do you call it? Other than Lewis Hamilton has a 5-place grid penalty for the Grand Prix on Sunday for a new ICE, which, given the pace we've seen so far, he may not be starting, say, at best in 6th place. It looks as though he's probably going to start the race probably P8, P9, that area. And if Ferrari do prove to be, very quick this weekend, then it might be, in terms of him coming back through the field to get a good result, might be pretty tough. So it just gets worse and worse for Mercedes at the moment. And also, if you guys didn't know, that Anthony Davidson, who of course is a contributor and pundit on Sky Sports F1, has announced that he will be retiring from professional racing, I think at the end of this year. So just some news there if you wanted to know. Of course, he had a decent F1 career. Mostly his good work mostly came as a reserve driver for BAR/Honda, but he was a pretty decent driver for them on that side, and also, of course, had a very good endurance career. So he's had a good career, considering that he, couldn't quite make it in Formula One. As hopefully in a moment we'll come back from the ad break and we'll see what the current running order is for practice 1 with about 15 minutes remaining. And also I've just seen there that Max Verstappen saying that if he does win the championship, he will absolutely have the number 1 number on his car next season, which of course we haven't seen the number 1 on any car since 2013, or was it 2014 with Sebastian Vettel? I'm not quite sure, but it was around that time. Of course, Lewis Hamilton, he's won the championship plenty of times since the hybrid era and that new rule for driver numbers began, and he has kept with 44, which of course has worked well for him. Rosberg won in 2016, but of course retired immediately, so we didn't get to see whether he would have gone for the number 1 there. So yeah, that'll be a good thing to see, I think. The number 1 returning to the grid, because of course if Lewis Hamilton wins the championship, then he'll keep 44. As just trying to see if there's any new position changes, and there is. Lando Norris is now up to P7. I think he did that lap time on the medium. I am expecting McLaren to be pretty quick this weekend, and I think they haven't quite shown yet how quick they can really go. As Lewis Hamilton is on the soft compound tyre now as the sun starts to come out at Interlagos, and Hamilton is now on a flying lap. He goes past the AlphaTauri at turn 4, and Hamilton about half a tenth down after the first sector on Max Verstappen. As, the top 10, you got Norris is 7th, and then it is Gasly 8th, Tsunoda 9th, and Stroll in 10th, and then Antonio Giovinazzi is in 11th place, and then Ricciardo in 12th. And like I was saying, McLaren have not yet shown how good they can be, as Hamilton 2/10 down after the first two sectors, so this lap time will put him probably in 3rd place, about a quarter of a second away from Max Verstappen. And he comes to the line. Now does Lewis Hamilton. And indeed, he's even slower than that. He's 3.5 tenths down. Did not have a good final sector. So Lewis Hamilton he's in 3rd. But he is still, considering how short the lap is, under 1 minute and 10 seconds. To be losing 3.5 tenths that quickly is pretty alarming so far for them. We'll see, of course, in qualifying later. Whether they can improve that. And, of course, let's remember that despite our predictions and thoughts coming out of practice 3 in Mexico last Saturday, they did lock out the front row in Mexico somehow. I still don't quite understand how they did that. They just magically had the speed when they needed to. I mean, I know, Tsunoda got in the way of the Red Bulls at the very end of the session, but hard to know whether Red Bull would have had the pace in the end to actually get pole and the front row. And, well, if Red Bull had got the front row, Red Bull probably would have had a 1-2 in the race and won the race by an absolute mile with both cars, as Tsunoda has now pushed his way up to P7. And Tsunoda, I have to say, has been pretty good in the last 2 or 3 races. Turkey, I thought he did a good job there. And then you had the US Grand Prix where he finished, was it 9th or 8th in that Grand Prix? And then Mexico, despite what happened at the end of qualifying, he had good pace and I thought he did pretty well. And then the race, of course, he was unfortunate with what happened, being took out by I think with the Haas and the Alpine of Ocon. And this weekend already looks pretty quick. So, yeah, Tsunoda, I think, if he continues this form next season, he could possibly start to become one of the, say, upper echelon drivers. Because he does have some very good speed to Tsunoda. Not quite as good as his teammate Gasly, but he has very good speed. And I think he can definitely do well in Formula 1. And your top 10 with 12.5 minutes to go. Verstappen first, Perez second, the 2 Red Bulls 1 and 2, then Hamilton third, Bottas 4th, Leclerc 5th. Leclerc, though, who is 3/4 of a second off Verstappen, he did his time on a slower tyre. I don't think he'll go quicker than Verstappen, really, but I think he could probably go ahead of the 2 Mercedes. Saying that, Valtteri Bottas is on another lap and is doing better on this attempt, as Bottas is now coming just past the pit entry line and up to the line, and Valtteri Bottas goes up to 3rd and is now only a 10.5 down on Max Verstappen, as Nicholas Latifi goes from almost last place up to P11. So Latifi up to 11th. But yeah, top 10 is now Verstappen, Perez, Bottas, Hamilton, and then Leclerc, Alonso, Tsunoda, Sainz, Norris, and Gasly round out your top 10. The rest, the rest of your order is Latifi, Stroll, and then Russell in 13th. Williams looking pretty good at the moment. I mean, still they're not quite up there with the top midfield teams, but looking pretty good. Hamilton, they're just saying on screen on the TV broadcast, has never won a world title when trailing in the championship with fewer than 6 races remaining. Didn't know that, but there you go. And then, yeah, you got Giovinazzi 14th, then Ricciardo, Raikkonen, Vettel, Ocon, Schumacher, and Mazepin. Vettel, though, he has not been out to do a new lap time, really. He's out on track, but he's doing, I think, more of a race simulation. He's not really pushing that hard. So he can go a lot quicker. And also Ocon can. Ocon currently sat in 18th place on the hard compound tyre, his time was done on, as Hamilton goes for another lap on the soft compound tyre. And Hamilton now through turn 3, of course, easy flat. In the wet, though, that is a proper corner as he comes up to the first sector, and he's about a tenth of a second quicker than Max Verstappen after sector 1 as he gives it absolutely everything on the exit turn 4. This is a proper hard push lap by Lewis Hamilton as Esteban Ocon is now up to 5th place. He's done a time on the medium and he's gone quicker than his teammate. Ocon up to 5th. And Alpine looking as quick as Ferrari right now. As Hamilton, now in the middle sector, he is still quicker than Max Verstappen, but only by a couple hundredths of a second. And now we'll get a good slipstream actually going to the line. So Hamilton should go quickest with this lap as he now comes through to the start-finish line. And Lewis Hamilton does indeed go P1. Lewis Hamilton is quickest on a 109.3, sorry. And that is just over half a tenth of a second quicker than Max Verstappen. As Stroll goes up to 8th place. Sebastian Vettel now goes up to 9th place. The Mercedes and Red Bulls, and I think the Williamses, are the only ones to actually go for a lap for soft compound tyre, which is interesting. And yeah, Vettel up to 9th. So still in the top 10 with both cars are Aston Martin and now we wait to see what happens next in this session as the Ferraris are on track and the Red Bulls are on track on fresh, soft, compound tyres. As Kimi Raikkonen now is in 10th place in the Alfa Romeo. So Raikkonen up to P10. Tsunoda P11, then Sainz, Norris, Gasly, Latifi, Russell, Giovinazzi, Ricciardo, Schumacher, Mazepin. As Sergio Perez, with just under 8 minutes to go in practice 1, will attempt another lap here in Sao Paulo. Well, no, he won't because he's now backed off. Perez, as of late, though, has done very, very well. Last 3 races, he's had a podium in all 3, 3rd place. Could have done better, I think, at the US Grand Prix if he wasn't ill. I think he would have done better, to be honest, because he was looking pretty quick all weekend until he fell a bit ill on the Sunday. But Mexico, he should have finished in 2nd place, but I do think Red Bull got the strategy wrong with him, because when Hamilton came out of his pit stop, he was held up by Charles Leclerc, and I think that was the time they had to pit him, and they missed the boat on that. So yeah, I think that was a big mistake from Red Bull, but he should have finished in 2nd place there, and of course finished 3rd in Turkey, as Carlos Sainz now goes up to 5th place on the soft compound tyre, only a 10th quicker than his teammate. So not a good lap there for Carlos Sainz. He'll be looking for a lot more on that tyre compared to his teammate. As Charles Leclerc goes P6 behind Carlos Sainz and barely quicker than his previous time on the medium. Let's see if there was a mistake. Here's a replay of Leclerc at turn 4. And he ran wide, but I wouldn't say he lost that much time. Yeah, that is... yeah, okay, he lost probably a tenth or two, but I would have expected Ferrari to go a lot quicker on that tyre compared to the medium. Maybe they've put a bit more fuel in the car, but that's a bit surprising. They've only gone barely quicker on that tyre that is quite a bit quicker around this track. As this is Max Verstappen, who is currently, surprisingly for him at the moment, sat in 2nd place. And he does not open the DRS on this lap, so he's not going for a proper quick lap. We have the top 10. Hamilton, Verstappen, Perez, Bottas, and then Sainz, Leclerc, Ocon, Alonso, Stroll, and Vettel is your top 10. And then Raikkonen, Tsunoda, and then you've got Giovinazzi up to 13th, with Norris 14th, and then Gasly, Schumacher in 16th, and then Latifi, Russell, Ricciardo, and Mazepin. Only 2 seconds separate the field here in Sao Paulo, with 5 minutes remaining. Esteban Ocon has just improved his time in 7th place on the medium compound tyre, and he's only 2 to 3 hundredths of a second slower than the 2 Ferraris who are on the soft compound tyre. So Ocon and Alonso are looking very good, you have to say, on that tyre and in that car, as a Mercedes whizzes past the Alpine of Alonso, and that Mercedes looks as though it's on a quick lap. It's Lewis Hamilton, as he also goes past the Haas of Schumacher, I think it is. And Hamilton did just do a purple sector 1. We'll see if Hamilton can improve again on this lap. Here is a replay of Alonso, I think, overtaking Gasly down the pit straight. No, Gasly throws it back up the inside and actually forces Alonso a bit wide. I think the stewards might have a word with Gasly and Alonso about that. And yeah, Hamilton goes much quicker on this lap, now 3.5 tenths quicker. And whatever they've done to that car, it's definitely working now, because he's looking very, very quick. I mean, Red Bull, I think, can definitely go quicker, but that Mercedes on Hamilton's side looks a lot better. So whatever, like I said, whatever they've done, it's definitely now working, as he's 3.5 tenths clear of the rest of the field. And if Ferrari, who are, they're currently on an outlap with both cars, if they're on a new set of soft tyres, be interested to see whether they do finally make that big improvement that they should have made on lap time from the medium to the soft, because they have improved their lap times, but it's not been, compared to what Leclerc's best time was on the mediums, it wasn't that good. So let's see. We're going to see with Carlos Sainz here, him go for a lap. I don't think so. Is he going for a lap? I don't quite know. Can't see. Yeah, the DRS is open. It didn't look as though he was going that quick down the pit straight, to be honest, as he has now started his lap. And now through turn 3, he is currently the quicker of the 2 Ferrari cars. Carlos has been decent around this track in the past. I mean, of course, he did finish on the podium here in a mental race 2 years ago, from starting from the back of the grid. But if you look at the races before that, his results weren't that great for Renault or for Toro Rosso. So this is not quite a Carlos Sainz track, despite the results being good, in 2019, as Yuki Tsunoda goes up to 10th place in the Alpha Tauri. And Sainz, let's see what his middle sector is like, and he's miles off and not really doing anything on this lap. As Hamilton, in the final 2 minutes now of practice 1, Hamilton is back in the pits for Mercedes. And I wouldn't be surprised, put it that way, if Ferrari were on a heavier fuel load, because, like I said, I think they could have definitely gone a lot quicker with the runs they did a few minutes ago. That's my feeling. I think Red Bull could go a lot quicker if they were going for a proper single lap run at the moment. And Verstappen, just showing a replay of him going a bit wide at the exit turn 4 and clinking, or knocking rather, the right hand side of the front wing against the exit curb. As in Sector 2, Hamilton and Verstappen have set the exact same time through that sector. Shows you how close it still is between the two greats, as Verstappen continues on track, but he is not doing a proper quick run. It's just possibly a sim for the sprint, by the looks of it, at the moment. And I'd probably say that with 24 laps only in the sprint, you'd have to say that the soft compound tyre is going to be the tyre of use in the sprint, because the soft definitely will do 24 racing laps and should be absolutely fine, as Lewis Hamilton comes back out on track, but he won't be setting another time because the session is now over. We'll see if anyone sets a final lap time to improve their position, as the checkered flag now waves. Looks as though everyone is pretty much on a sim for the race or the sprint, as Sainz, Leclerc, Alonso, they have seen the checkered flag. Bottas has come into the pits, and now Giovinazzi has seen the flag. Hamilton, of course, he won't be able to set a time because he has not got to the line in time. And Verstappen as well, seeing the flag, as Pierre Gasly now shoots up to 5th place in the AlphaTauri on the soft compound tyre, and goes a couple tenths of a second quicker than the two Ferraris. So Ferrari, they better have a lot more to show, because Gasly is still in there fighting away for AlphaTauri, as they are just showing a lap recap for Lewis Hamilton, who, surprisingly, given how the session started, ends practice 1 in P1. So good job so far by Mercedes to make that car better, and it definitely looks better than what it looked like in the early running here in practice 1. But I still feel as though Red Bull are able to go significantly quicker than what they've done so far. Reminder, they weren't setting any quick times at the end of the session like Lewis Hamilton was then. So let's also remember that in regards to the results of this session. But there you go, guys. That is practice 1 over and done with. Lewis Hamilton is your P1 man in this session, with Verstappen 2nd, Perez 3rd, Bottas 4th, and then Gasly, Sainz, Leclerc, Ocon, Alonso, Stroll completing the top 10. And then the rest of the order: Tsunoda, Vettel, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Norris, Schumacher, Latifi, Russell, Ricciardo, Mazepin, McLaren. Look out for them in qualifying later. They can go a lot quicker as well. They are definitely holding a lot back. But guys, that has been it for this practice 1 watch along. Thank you guys for coming along and watching this stream, and don't forget as well to come along later to the qualifying watch along for the 2021 Sao Paulo Grand Prix, starting that stream in 2 hours time. And yeah, don't forget to come along to that to watch and see who ends up on pole position for the sprint, and then, you know, seeing what the pace really is this weekend, and seeing whether Mercedes can actually take the fight to Red Bull this weekend. But yeah, thank you guys for watching as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. Don't forget to smash the like button and also share this video and channel everywhere you can. And as well, don't forget to join my Discord server, link below in the description for more content like this. There's a great place that is, if you want to chat motorsport with other people, because there's almost 500 people in that server. And also, it's also a great place for notifications for my streams. I know the notifications on this website can be a bit all over the place. So if you want consistent notifications, then make sure to join the Discord server. But guys, until the qualifying watch along in 2 hours time, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.